Hello and welcome to Business Insights with Irene on LIDA Network. Today we have a very special and important guest who is by person of Mr. Nduka Udeh, who is the CEO and founder of Export and Sell LLC. Basically what they do is they help small businesses in Africa access the US market, such an important role that they play here in the Nigerian space. So thank you so much, Mr. Nduka, for joining us on Business Insights with Irene.
Thank you so much.
So what would you say Export and Sell does holistically?
Export and Sell was born out of a demand by so many businesses, especially African businesses, looking to get their products in the US market and obviously earn in dollars, but not having the knowledge and the expertise and the resources to do it. So what we basically do is we step in, provide them key services. The first one is of which is the training, provide them support with logistics and warehousing, as well as provide them help. And this is the most important help, helping them to find buyers out there in the USA. And, it could be by selling their products on Amazon, pushing it to various US buyers, and then, in the long run, helping them to have a presence in most of the retail outlets you have out there in the USA.
The most burning question for those who are listening right now would be really what products can I start to sell, being that there's an array of products out there in the market that can be sold. How do I know what to sell to the US market?
Yeah, I think that's the most important question. And even though it's a question that most people have, when you take a look at Africa, Africa has so much potential. We have a lot of resources, a lot of raw materials that could be converted into products that will make an excellent product for export. So basically, yes, before you go into export, you need to find that right product. You must be sure that it is a product that meets certain requirements, especially if it's food. You want to be sure it has the necessary shelf life. You want to be sure you can get it easily in demand. You also want to be sure that you are able to meet the quality that the US market is asking for. You have to be sure that you are able to get all the necessary licenses, both locally and also in the USA, to export this. And then once all that is in place, I think the most important thing that most people miss is being able to determine the profitability of whatever it is you want to go into export. I've seen so many people make mistakes. They come to the USA, they see the price that they are selling products, and the next thing they do is they ship a bunch of items without considering the fact that what you see on the store shelf is not what the stores are going to buy from you. They're going to have to factor in their own margin and stuff like that. So being able to, first of all, determine your profitability for any product is probably the first thing any African business should first look into.
Let's talk about the issue of the NAVD licensing. I have a friend who mentioned, that as at the time we were discussing, it was over a year and she had still not gotten her NAVD license.
Yeah.
For her product. And you know how important this is when it comes to being able to export your products. You can't export your finished products if you don't have your NAVD license.
The NAVD issue seems to be a very big problem for Nigerian businesses. Not just small businesses, but big businesses are suffering seriously because of the inefficiencies from NAVD. We've done series of trainings, trained over 1,000, I think probably 1,500 businesses. And if you ask them for their biggest issue, especially those that are in food and cosmetics, which fall under the jurisdiction of NAVD, it is the inefficiencies and, the kickback and the processes of getting your license from NAVD. That seems to be the biggest issue. And I think it's about time. If we are really serious, Nigeria has a huge potential when it comes to food, cosmetics, and products like that. And if the government is serious about meeting the non-oil export, look, a total overhaul of NAVDAC is necessary, because I'm not the one saying this. This is what we are hearing from numerous businesses. I've seen instances where it took people 18 months to get their licenses. These are people who spent 5 million and above setting up their facility. So it's not like they were below standard or they were, trying to cut corners. They had every single thing in place. There were multiplicity of inspections, all with an aim to do things through the back door, which the person refused to, and because of that, he had to suffer. So I'll say it again clearly, and for anybody out there to hear, there needs to be a serious overhaul of NAVDAC if we are serious about exporting products. Now, one of the things you see with the inefficiencies you have with NAVDAC is that the country is losing so much because a lot of companies that could have gone into exporting value-added products, these are products that you have processed, now end up, because if you look at the legislation forming NAVDAC, once a product has been processed, you now need to have your NAVDAC license. But if it's in the raw form, you don't need to. So instead of them processing those products and increasing the value 5, 10, 20 times, they just prefer to export it raw. And when you look at export statistics, take products like ginger, products like shea butter, it looks like Nigeria is not a major player, but we are. The reason is because we are exporting the raw products, and other countries take the benefit, because they have now processed those products into value-added products. And it seems like Nigeria is not doing a lot. So a lot needs to be looked into the processes of NAVDAC. And you asked specifically about NAVDAC. There are a bunch of other issues with a lot of other agencies. If you look at the processes for products that need their SUN certification, if you look at the processes that they go through, there is serious duplication between those that need it for NAVDAC and SUN. So at the end of the day, you are spending 18 months with NAVDAC or spending 12 months with, it's just synergy. Exactly, it's just a complex process, and then you now look at all the other things going on in the country, the issues with customs, I know one of the biggest African stores in the USA who tried to export products from Nigeria, but because of the difficulties, he now had to go open up a warehouse in Ghana. And that's where he's exporting his items.
And what would you say that Nigeria is losing in terms of not tapping fully into the non-oil exports, bits in the country?
Let's look at Nigeria as a country, right? Over 200 million people, probably 250 million, if our statistics are correct. So let's say 200 to 250. Now, take a look at other countries. Holland. Holland is basically into agriculture. You cannot compare the GDP of Holland and Nigeria. So that tells you there is a lot that we are doing. Look at, I was reading an article the other day on UK where they decided to offer duty-free shipping for countries like Nigeria. And they said that of all the shea butter going into the UK, Nigeria accounts for just 2%, and that tells you the magnitude of the complexities that the local businesses are facing, to get it out. Now, if all these complexities are removed, are dealt with, I don't see us moving from $30 billion, which is about what they say we do with respect to non-oil export, to anywhere between 500 billion and more, because we have massive potential. You look at the size, compare our GDP to countries like Vietnam and a lot of those countries who are way, way smaller than us. And that we have serious issues with non-oil export.
So let's talk about the issue of copyright infringement and not being able to get listed,
We also have, again, when you look at the legislation forming NAVDAC, right? that legislation is way outdated and needs to be reviewed in the current decade that we are in. So let me give an example. I'm trying to sell maybe ginger, for example. We have studies that have been done over the years that says these are the things that ginger or any other product helps in the body. Now, NAVD laws will tell you that, you cannot make a claim on a product, even though those claims have scientific validity, valid scientific studies that shows this product does this. Now, you have that same product coming from other countries where they put that claim. So you have a Nigerian product that says, there is no claim. This is just, stuff in a bottle. And you have another one that says, yes, this can be used to cure acne, do this and do that. Now, when you have those two products on a shelf in a foreign country, which one do you think people are going to use? They're obviously going to use the one that shows, different things. So a lot of these laws that we rely on now for export needs to be modified. There is a lot that is wrong in our export process. Now, again, talking about those copywriting and co, you see countries like Kenya where their government is doing a lot, helping various farmers to get organic certifications, because these are things that boost your sellability. So what are we having to do when we're dealing with Nigerians? Instead of using the word organic, we are using pure, natural, all those things. But people out there are looking for products that have that word organic, because once you put organic, they know that these things, So there's a whole facet of issues wrong with the export business in Nigeria, and we need to really sit down. You need to declare a state of emergency on export. Call professionals, people that are practically in the business, to give you suggestions. One of the mistakes government makes all the time, you are trying to revamp, let's say, the customs service, and then they set up a committee, and who is the head of the committee? The head of customs. So you are trying to revamp immigration. You set up a committee, who is the head? So you are putting the head of the organization that had messed up the organization to revamp itself. You can't revamp yourself. You need to have an external look, somebody outside that understands this thing, coming to help in revamping those things. In fact, when we started Export and Sell, one of our first customers was a lady from Benin. So she shipped boxes of bed sheets and pillowcases that had Mickey Mouse and Tom and Jerry on it. Now, those are obviously copyrighted items. You can't sell it in the US except you have authorization from the copyright owner or the trademark owner. And these are things, in fact, those were some of the reasons we had to start a training process, because people, first of all, need to know these rules and regulations before they go into export.
So some business owners will tell you that they have an issue with, particularly those who probably sell online. They have products that would get to people who are in the US or the UK. They sell it for about 10,000, but the cost of shipping can go as high as 30,000, 50,000. What can be done in this sort of situation?
It's not just Nigeria that such is peculiar to. It's the same worldwide. So if you look at the Chinese model, how is it that China took over the US market and stuff like that? And what they did was basically simple. They funded Chinese businesses to own warehouses all over the USA. And they now got their local businesses to ship in bulk via ocean to those warehouses. And then when people needed the products, it's easier and cheaper to just dispatch it from there. So let me give you a practical example. If I'm shipping via ocean, it's probably going to cost me about 10% what it is to ship via air. So if I'm shipping, say, a product about the size of this phone, this is probably like 1 kg, let's say 1 kg, and I'm shipping it via, say, DHL, right? The minimum you're going to see that DHL will give you is probably going to be about 25,000 to ship this. Now, this product could cost maybe 15,000. So now you have 40,000 to ship it. Now, like you said, a lot of people have the potential to sell this online. So imagine a business that is in Nigeria, registered on Amazon, is selling online. They have to spend 25,000 to ship a product each time, or they're on Etsy or eBay, on some of those places. Now, a lot of Nigerian businesses have tried that, but the issue they face is when the customer wants a return, how do they get the product back? It becomes a complete loss. So what we do at Export and Sell is we have been able, just using the Chinese model, we've set up warehouses in Houston and Atlanta. And then the Nigerian businesses who come to us are now able to ship via ocean in bulk. So it drastically drops your shipping cost, increases your profitability. And when those things get to the warehouse, they are there. And then as they have customers buying this product from everywhere, it's just a matter of sending us a message and we're able to ship it out to them. So that, helps you to retain your customers, because now you are serving them cheaply. It reduces the transit time for your customers and so many things. And that is a model that is going to work. It's really the only way. There is no business that can survive by having to pay 2, 3, 4 times the cost of shipping versus the cost of the product. The buyers will just buy from other suppliers.
Can we speak briefly regarding the AGOA Act? Nigeria doesn't have the AGOA Act. Well, countries like, Ghana, Rwanda, how can we start to tap into this?
So this is one area where you look at the inefficiencies in our government and you begin to wonder, what is going on? So for those who don't know, AGOA, African Growth and Opportunity Act, enacted as far back as the year 2000, I think by President Clinton then. And what did it do? It allowed duty-free shipping for over 6,400 products from sub-Saharan African countries, including Nigeria, to the USA. And if you look at what happened in the last 4 or 5 years, right? Countries like Nigeria, if they had forward thinkers in government, in policy making, should have really latched onto AGOA. So let me give a practical example. I'm shipping a container load of, say, cosmetics from China to the US, right? Say the duty is 12%. That means I have to pay a duty of about $120,000 on $1 million worth of cosmetics. Now, that same container coming from Nigeria, your duty is 0. So whoever is the company buying it has already saved $120,000. Now, when President Trump came in, his war with the Chinese raised a lot of those duties from 12 to maybe 25, some 35%. So what does this mean? It now means that that same person who is shipping from China to US is now going to be paying anywhere from $250,000 to $350,000 in duties alone. That same product coming from Nigeria or some of these other sub-Saharan African countries under that AGOA Act will pay 0 duty. So Trump's fight with the Chinese really opened up a huge opportunity, because when it was 12% before the Trump stuff, the efficiencies and the cheaper manufacturing costs in China will still make it preferable for most businesses. But when you now raise it to 25 to 35%, it makes it easier. Now, when you look at countries like Rwanda, a lot of all these African countries have what they call an AGOA policy, a policy that they have put in place to help their local businesses to capitalize on that duty-free shipping to the USA. When people look at the USA, a lot of people don't understand the magnitude of what we're dealing with. Europe has about 28 countries, I believe. I think 28 countries. The economy of the US is only about 10% smaller than that of Europe. So when you combine the Great Britain, Germany, Spain, Italy, all these people combined is not even as big as the US. And that is why every country is looking, they are begging to have a trade deal with the USA. Now, the US under the AGOA Act has offered Nigeria a zero duty trade deal. But we've not done anything about it. So for those companies that have to go it their own way, that understand the AGOA, tap into it. The process is not difficult. There are some key requirements you have to meet. And then when you look at meeting some of these key requirements, you now have bodies that are also supposed to help you meet those requirements, making it difficult. To export under AGOA, you need to have your certificate of origin. Try to get a certificate of origin today from NACIMA, and you see the process that it takes, the cost implications of all these things. And these are the things killing our exports.
What would you say that the hot cake products are that businesses can start to look into when it comes to export?
If you talk about hot cake products, I always look at things in terms of profitability, and not just profitability, but recurring profitability. And that's why anything food, cosmetics is good, because people must eat every day. Now, when you look at fashion, I can't remember the last time I, went shopping for, you can buy one set of clothes and it will last you 2, 3, 4 years. But food is something that you must continue eating. Now when we talk about food, we are blessed with so many things. You come to the north here, we're obviously doing this interview in Kano here. I can't go out there and say and name, oh, this product is a hot cake, but I can tell you that anything food and cosmetics are huge potential. If NAVDAC was not there disrupting and causing issues for small businesses, a lot of small businesses would have really taken the advantage that you have with food and cosmetics. So those are the two key things that I think anybody cannot get wrong. Now, if you are in fashion, fashion is good. But where I see those in fashion getting it wrong is, when you want to make it in fashion, export business is about selling one item to 100,000 people. A lot of people want to sell different items to find that one product. If you are in fashion and you want to sell apron, you can decide to just make apron, because it is something you can do in bulk. If you are making $3-4 per apron, but that there are thousands of people who are buying those products on a regular basis. So those are the things that you need to consider. Now, there are some key factors again that you have to look into when you decide to export food. So things like what is the shelf life, because if you are shipping something via ocean, you need to factor in the 2-3 months. What is the shelf life? What is the weight compared to the cost? Because a lot of times you are going to ship the items. So somebody who is selling $14 hibiscus flower and somebody who is selling $14 gari, the hibiscus is going to obviously be more profitable because the cost to ship it to the final customer is a lot less. You're going to need to look at the availability of that product. You don't want to sell product that is available seasonally. You want to sell products you can have access to regularly. And then you also need to look at the price differential. So if the customers, other people there in the USA are selling for say $13, can you sell for about 11 or 12? Just a little difference to get those customers. So those are some key factors. And a lot of these things, we have a free training on our website, Export and Sell, that really looks at the key factors you need to consider in deciding what to export.
And finally, before I let you go, let's talk about loans. I know that the export business is quite capital intensive. So would you suggest that one who is either new to the business or already running their businesses, but now they want to expand into the international markets, would you advise them to go get loans?
So when we talk about loans in Nigeria, Nigeria is one of the most difficult places to get a reasonable interest rate. Last I checked, you are looking at almost 29% when they factor in all the fees and the loan and so many things, documentation fees and all that, to get a loan. So it means that if I were a business and I go and borrow 100 million I'm going to be paying back at the end of the year 30 million in. And then when you look at the process of getting loans, the typical bank will want you to give them collateral that is probably twice how much you are looking for, and because of that risk factor, I'm a business, you are giving me a 30%, you want me to give you collateral that is twice, even though you see the returns that the business can run it. I would typically not advise anybody to take a loan unless you have no choice and you've done your profit calculation, you have guaranteed buyers and all those things, so that is one. I would typically not advise anybody to go take a loan to start a business, except you're already solid in the business, you know it very well, because any business has a learning curve. It's going to take time for you to understand it and learn it. Now, again, one of the areas I have a disagreement a lot of times, and this is with, my friends at the NEPC. They're a government body, so they are trying to help everybody go into export, so they will typically hold training programs, which is excellent. The training programs are free. They have lots of people come because it's free. But it is not helping, because when you have a scheme that is free, you will typically attract people that are looking for handouts, and export is expensive. If you listen to what I said earlier, to really be profitable in export, you need to be able to ship in bulk. 95% of the world's commerce is via sea. You need to be able to ship in bulk. It reduces your cost, warehouse it, and then you distribute as people buy. So, and when you look at that, if you become a business and you have people buying, say, $100,000 product from me on a monthly basis, you need to have a capital of at least $300,000 to $400,000 to run that $100,000 on a monthly basis. Why? Because every month you need to be shipping about $100,000 in order for your customers to have what it takes on a monthly basis. So, export is not cheap. We don't have the financial, the companies that are ready to finance it at a reasonable rate. So I would not advise anybody to go into taking loan to do export. Try and start small, and that's one of the things we do at Export and Sell. We give you the option to start small. If it's a box of items that you have, send it with our consolidated ocean container. So instead of paying, you pay way less, it's going to be there in the warehouse. We have a lot of customers who are doing that now. So they send small items and they are all over Instagram, all over Facebook looking for buyers. As they buy, we ship to them. That's how you have to start small. There is no company that started as $1 million company. You always start small, but if you there's a popular saying from Bill Gates that I always remember when I'm talking to some of these small businesses. He said, look, people overestimate where they can be in a year, but underestimate where they can be in 10 years. So the key thing is start small now. In a year, the first year you are going to struggle. Why? Because you are learning the business. You are trying to build up your customer base. You are trying to understand all the intricacies, how to maximize your profit. But by the time you get to the second, third year, that's when you start seeing an exponential growth in your business. And that is what we all need to consider. So again, to summarize, I would not recommend anybody take massive loan to start export. Start small. Use that period where you are small to fully understand the business. When you understand it, you have buyers, then you can consider taking very expensive loans. Now, in talking about the loans again, our government is not doing what they ought to do when we're talking about export. So when you look at most countries, what is it that you see? To support export, what government does is not to give out the loan. Government should not be in the business of giving out loans, but they can insure that loan. So they tell banks, look, these are the areas that we want to grow in export. We want to grow the ginger business. We want to grow the shea butter business because we have the potential. Any company in this sector, we need you to give them loan at 5%, at 7% to grow their business. Now, we as a government are going to come in and we will insure that loan so that if that business does not pay you, the government pays. It's not in the line of business to be giving loans, but they can set up policies, insure that loan, and that is what people like NEXIMS and some of these companies bodies are supposed to do. But the process to get those things is so complex that most businesses don't. So that's my view on that.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Nduka, for joining us on Business Insights with Irene. We do appreciate your time, and hopefully with all of the trainings and insights, I reckon those who joined us during today's conversation would have picked up one or two things and fly with it. Thank you very much.